Welcome to the design studios at Plazko.com. I'm Bonnie Clewans, and today we're going to be making this beautiful curved chain, silver and crystal chandelier earring. There are several different parts to this project. I usually start at the bottom and work my way up. I'll be creating two dangles which are going to attach to this bar, which I will also create. To make this, I add my 4mm, 6mm, and 4mm crystal on a 2-inch 24 gauge head pin, and I just position my tool a little bit above the beads, about 1/3 of the way up the nose of a round nose pliers. Holding on to the beads, I bend my wrist away, and I'm parallel with the table. I then pull the wire over that top nose of the pliers so that it's coming over towards me. I'm going to remove my tool, grasp it, and take that wire, that tail of the wire, and begin to wrap it in a coil-like fashion down towards the beads. That creates a loop which is wire wrapped. Then I'm going to cut using my flush cutter flat side against my beads and my coil, turn it down onto my tray so that that stray piece of wire didn't fly all over. The next thing I'll do is I'll very gently go around the top of that coil using a crimping tool to very gently crimp that little bit of excess wire which you really can't get onto the coil, and make sure it's nice and smooth. And I will repeat the process on another one of my dangles. Away over the loop, take it out, and then wrap in a coil-like fashion going down to the beads. Get my flush cutter as tight as I can, turn down onto the tray, and cut. And tuck in that end using my crimping tool. And of course you want to be careful not to crimp your crystal since it's quite delicate and you don't want it to fracture. Now I'm ready to move on to the next part of the earring, which is this bar, and that's made out of a 3-inch piece of wire. This is a 24 gauge half hard wire. I'm going to make a wire wrapped loop on the end. And again, it's the same process. I position my tool about 1/3 of the way up, and that's where my wire is, making sure I have about a 1-inch piece of wire because I'm going to have to wrap that. I bend my wrist away, I pull over the top nose of the pliers, and then I want to wrap going underneath my tool. I'm going to do 3 wraps And now I'm going to cut off the excess, again, cutting down onto my work surface and getting that little piece of silver wire out of the way. At this point, I'm going to add my chain, and this is curb chain. And just a little tip, when you are cutting pieces of chain and you need to make sure that they are equal, I hang them on a T-pin, and that way I can see exactly how long they are, and if I need to trim one, I can. I pick up my first piece of chain. This is a 6mm crystal, 4mm crystal, and I add on my first dangle. Then I add my next 6mm crystal, my second dangle, a 4mm, and my last 6mm, and my second piece of wire. Okay. Now I am going to repeat what I did on the first side, making that loop, holding my beads down so I can see where I am. I want to have a little bit of space, about 1/8 of an inch of space. Bend my wrist away, pull it over the top nose of the pliers, making sure I don't catch the chain into the wire wrap loop, and very carefully making sure my chain is hanging away, I do my wrap. Trim off the excess, and now I'm ready to move on to my next part of the earring. Remember I said I'm starting at the bottom. I now have to add these last 2 crystals onto the wire wrapped loop on each side. we are ready to move on to our next part of the earring. As you can see, we have our chain, and now we need to add a link to our ear wire. With that link, I will have my two sides of chain, and I will hook on to the ear wire. Bend my wrist away, pull the wire over the top nose of the pliers, pick up the ends of my chain, and we need to make sure that we have our ends attached appropriately before we finish making our loop. And now I wrap three times, cut the excess off down onto my tray, add a 4mm crystal, and now I'm ready to hook on to my fish hook ear wire. And it's so much easier to do your wire wrap when you have a little bit longer piece of wire. Cutting down. And just tucking in my ends on both sides of the link. Now I have one more dangle to add, and that is the one which hangs right between the chain off of the link. Now again, be careful. You don't want your last dangle to get caught in the chain. And here we go, wrapping down. Cutting down. And then tucking in that little piece of wire. Using our crimping tool. And here is our crystal and chandelier earring. If you find that your earring is not sitting correctly, you sometimes have to do alignment with your link. Normally, when you have different links together, they need to go at right angles to each other so that you will have one going forward and one going in the other direction. If you need to make any changes in order to get your earring to hang properly, using your round nose tool and your hand very gently, just twist it a little bit and that will put it into the right direction. If you have any questions about this project or any other, please contact us at DIY@Plazko.com.